Hey y'all, it's me, Miss B. Let's get started. So today we're going to be identifying the properties of real numbers. Our first definition is going to be the opposite or additive inverse of any number. A is negative A. We talked about those in the last notes. The sum of a number and its opposite is 0 is the additive identity. So if I have a number, let's just say 5, or let's use the example. So if I have a number, let's do A, and I add its opposite, negative A, then I'm going to get 0. Let's try this out with something else. So let's try 3 plus negative 3. If we test it out, 3 plus negative 3 is 0. Alright, our next definition is the reciprocal or multiplicative identity. I'm sorry, multiplicative inverse. So the reciprocal or multiplicative inverse of any number is 1 over A. The product of a number A and its reciprocal is 1. So let's write that out in terms of A. So if I have A times 1 over A, I should get 1. Let's test that out with actual numbers. Let's do 3 times 1/3. And if I have 3 of something and I split it into 3 groups, which is what this is saying right here, I should get 1. Okay, so we're going to run through these properties here. Just follow along as I write them down. So we have the property closure. So in addition, that means that A plus B is in all real numbers. In multiplication, that means that A times B is in all real numbers. The commutative property is A plus B equals B plus A. So no matter the order you add them together, then it doesn't matter the order when you're adding things together. It should still equal the same thing. Same thing with multiplication. A times B is equal to B times A. The associative identity is going to be, I'm actually going to use some multiple colors here. Let's do I wrote too big. Sorry guys. So we've got Alright, so with the associative property, I can group this however I want. I can group A and B together, and I can group B and C together, and it's going to equal the same thing. Because again, we're adding the same things together, it's just a matter of what we're adding together first. Same thing with multiplication. Doesn't matter what order we multiply in. If we're multiplying, then the associative property is possible. The identity. So that means if I add 0 to A, that I'm going to get A again. The only difference with multiplication is that 1 is the identity, or 1 gives us the identity. The inverse, we already talked about that. I'm just going to write these down. So this is the additive inverse, A plus negative A equals 0, and the multiplicative is A times 1 over A equals 1. And then the distributive property is going to be something we learned about in Algebra 1. So if I have A times B plus C, what that means is I can distribute that through. So then I get AB plus AC. So I multiply A times B and A times C. Okay, so keep those in your back pocket. Definitely want to write those down. Pause if you need to. All right, excuse me. So we're going to run through some examples here. And it asks, which property does the equation illustrate? So here, let's actually rewrite the problem. I want it to be white. Let's do negative 2/3 times negative 3 over 2. So if I'm looking, feel free to use your chart if you need to up here. I'm looking at multiplication, so I know I have some kind of multiplicative. Because there's multiplication between the two parts. Now I just have to figure out which one it is. Now, if you think about it, negative 2/3 times negative 3 over 2, the 2's would cancel, the 3's would cancel, those negatives would cancel, and so what we're left with is 1. Now, looking up here, is there a multiplicative inverse where you're going to end up with 1 as your answer? There's only one, and it's the inverse. So this is going to be the multiplicative inverse. I'm going to have you do this one on your own. All right, so this one is all about the grouping. You'll notice that this is 3 times 4, and this has 4 times 3. That 5 on the outside is kind of there to trick you. So if we were to look up here where it says 3 times 4 is the same thing as 4 times 3, that would be the multiplicative commutative property of multiplication, where A times B is equal to B times A. So 3 times 4 is equal to 4 times 3. So we call this, I can never remember how to say it. We're going to call this the commutative property of multiplication. All right, so looking at this next one here, I have 2g and I have 2g. Nothing changes there. Inside the parentheses, though, I have 3 times g plus h, and I have 3g plus 3h. What property is that? Where if what property do you notice there? You should say that it's the distributive property. Because if you look, this 3 just got distributed to the g and to the h. All right, this problem's a little bit more involved. Let's pick a fun new color to do it in. Some burrow blue. All right, so we're going to use the properties of real numbers to show that a plus the quantity 3 plus negative a is equal to 3. And then we're going to justify each step. So we're not going to call it proofs because we're not doing that, but I'm just going to put the properties over here. And this is going to be the math over here. So, just making sure my pen size is good. Okay, so we're going to just rewrite it. So I have a plus the quantity 3 plus negative a is equal to 3. Alright, so this is just given. Let's do something first. Let's go ahead and drop the bracket. So I'm going to be left with a plus 3 plus negative a equals 3. Now because we dropped those brackets, that is going to be the associative property because we rearranged those. Dropping them all together is a little bit different, but we're going to go ahead and drop them for now. So that's going to be the associative property. I'm just going to put P. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and switch. Let's not use blue. Let's go ahead and switch these two. So I'm going to have a plus negative a plus 3 equals 3. You're probably starting to sense what we're supposed to do now. Now, I switched those two things, so that is the commutative property. Next up, I'm actually going to keep these parentheses on here just for sake of clarity. Next up, I have a plus negative a. What property says that that is 0? So I have 0 plus 3 equals 3. What property is that right here? You should write that it's the inverse property. If you want to be more precise, the additive inverse. Then finally I have 0 plus 3. 0 plus 3 is 3 equals 3. What property is that? You should have put the nope, not that, identity. The additive identity. I'm just going to put add. Okay, so let's see what we have next. I think, yep, that's it. The next of it is going to be practice for in class. So thanks for following along.